Welcome back, fellow armed generals, to WarPlan. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of, as I just said, WarPlan. So we're going to continue with this, and we are right now going to have the Allied turn. Wondering if this was the Soviets or Allied. Yes, everybody's in turn. Yes. We've taken Stalingrad. We've created another pocket down here. We're pushing deep in there, outrunning our supplies in there. We've taken Leningrad. Okay, they're trying to pull out of the pocket up there. Or the forming pocket, we should maybe say. Which is smart of them. Okay, Germany's merchant fleet. Good, we needed those merchant vessels. A lot of no supplies. Okay, we'll have to worry about that a bit. Lacking, yes, I know we're lacking, even though with that we're still lacking. Turkey is lacking merchant marine convoy. Germany will be used. Ship the remaining resources, right? Needs to fully transport resources. Turkey's, that's what we have a convoy set to get. Fuel to Turkey. Okay. Let's look partisan activity. Okay, in the west. Where? Here. There. That could pop up and be something. Well, that is why we have these divisions back here. I think that might be. We're going to come here with you. We'll see about moving that in a moment. Now, a lot of supply situations here. Yeah, I was figuring because we didn't get that one hex last turn. I did want to push in, but didn't get the hex. So that is doing bad supply for all these units because there's an armor unit there. Oh, the good infantry unit right there. That should get us supplies next turn. Now down Caucasus, we've outrun supplies here. They're going to get railroads up and going. We can see those are going from last turn, which is supplying into there. So all of that is useful. These guys, somehow the effect got them cut off. I don't know. Okay, they'll come up that way. I think we need to push deeper into the Soviet Union with you. Now let's go there with you. Yeah, I'm not surprised with the river situation there. Was reflexively going to move them to Sevastopol, but maybe we should move them over to Kretch. First, we'll see what we can do here. Okay, well, we have them cut off, it looks like, for the moment. We can probably attack there effectively, there not effectively. But that's okay. Getting troops this deep is a goal in and of itself. Just a small core size pocket, but that's nice to have. Well, it doesn't get us that damn, oh well. Three to one, okay, well. 5 to 1 sounds a lot better odds. 6 to 1. Crush. Now, basically. Trying to see if we needed to use the air power. I guess we do. Should have used it before here, I know, but I just thought one of the first one or two I thought was just going to crush that. Two to one still only. Not that that's bad. Okay, well, let's move you to here. This has run out of gas almost literally, this push here, but this push in the center hasn't. So what we're going to do here is, these guys are damn weak, so let's definitely not very weak themselves. So I know I just used, and that see, I wanted this to go a little better because I want to secure 2 sets of supply lines coming through here. Also, to try to continue to push on whatever sort of pocket we can form here is sort of that goal, and why I hammered here. I wanted to sort of say move my air up to here. I know we have this guy here. I guess we should maybe do a light airstrike on that. We'll focus what we can. Very good. Okay, well, I guess we'll take the 10. And we are really, well, both down in strength considerably, as well as just disorganization. We're like, that's about how we should really be in strength. And let's move you up to try to keep them from, shall we say, creating another pocket. Pocketing my units, as it were. Yeah, it's too far out of their range, okay. I guess we will use the, whose air is this? Oh, Hungarian. Hungarian arrow, okay. That's good. No. Maybe we should have done this all along. Yeah, just should have. Okay, they're ground down a bit, the armor there. Now, 6-1. That seems like good odds. Okay. Push that to be more. And come up and hold the line. These guys will exploit down into there. We're using the HQs as area security and whatnot. Okay, they could come down to there. And that took them fully out of it. Okay, push them to there. 1-1. That is sort of the odds that I was trying to avoid. These guys get to come down to here. Back up to here. Get these guys across there, just so we don't have to fight our way across. Possibly. And so now we've got Sevastopol, basically all of Crimea. A little disappointed with this game in that hexes like this one hasn't turned over to our better, more readily, like along the coast and things. I don't know that if we have to like go in and occupy all of that. Just that would be tedious. Okay, so we pushed in, I think, about as far as we can in most of these areas, or as far as we should, maybe further. And go up to Leningrad. I don't want this guy getting cut off with a, move up along that railway. Push them back, don't have much more gas, literally, I think. Get them marching up the Volga. And this, at least right now, to me, seems like it's functionally a pocket down here. Don't know if they're getting supplied or not. Well, they're low on supplies. Well, let's go to Sevastopol. Now that we have that. Well, we don't quite have rail connection, but we should have sea connection there. You guys, no, not garrison status. For operations, let's see. We didn't want to invade there. But I'm wondering, do we want to go to Sevastopol and march up? Do we want to come by to here and march up that way? The other option, of course, is to come over here and add weight to all of this. But you can see there's a lot of German security division type. I mean, they're proper German divisions, but just not corps over here. A lot of other allied corps that are making this up. And yes, there's a lot of even weaker allied corps, Turkish particularly over here. But, oh, I don't know. Yeah, sure, we can push up the Volga, and we probably will, given the time. I think maybe coming up through here will be more important, so I know I was thinking about adding more down here, but I think this is good enough. There we go. So that should get that done well enough. You guys keep coming here. HQ there. You can get on board here and well. Yeah. You come to there before we'll get the other German corps out of there, and you can get out of your boats. There we go. That way we'll have one corps back holding here. Another German corps up here is sort of real fighting forces for what I'm expecting to be an invasion there. They're at 5 strength. These are still at 3. I'm glad we got the more merchant marines coming. We still have 30 more merchant marine factors coming, which is good. Okay, well, in 42, early 42, we'll have 2 more Panzer Corps. That will be useful, most assuredly. Okay, these guys, I guess, will come this way. Join this sort of area push. And the key, okay, how do I put this? All of these games are in some degree or another a simulation of what happened historically. Sometimes we can go to one extreme, Axis and Allies, the game, yeah, not very realistic. Others get more realistic. Okay. I try to learn from historical and try and hope that historical realities are to some degree implemented in the game. Okay, the mistake, well, there's multiple mistakes, but sort of the big mistake, well, the second big mistake. The first big mistake was battling inside Stalingrad itself. Not the initial attack, in my opinion, not the sort of initial sort of push to try to get them out. But once it was determined that you weren't easily getting them out, the Germans just, oh, well, another few more battalions or brigades or divisions, and we've almost got this one. That's not what you should do. I've talked about this in greater length, but they should have worked to cut off the Volga, because the Volga was a major supply and reinforcement path, and whatever railways. And I don't know how. I don't think this is terribly accurate, but the idea of the rails down here is to cut this area off, not to have like a long siege of Leningrad, but just cut them off from. And I know the tractor factory in there was producing some tanks and whatnot locally within Stalingrad, and they may even had a factory pumping out ammo. I don't know, but probably not nearly the level of consumption needed. But once you had, sort of encircled it, then renewed, or you may have even withdrawn to properly do the encircle, was withdraw from the city and encircle it, and then vigorously attack it. That, I'm not saying it's the best solution of all reasonable solutions to be found at the time, but that is my solution that we can see here, the Don and the Volga. And I'm so glad for maps that add these here, because I know sort of the names, but they all sort of start looking and sounding the same. But I know both the Don and the Volga were significant river barge transports, as well as we can see, as well as so if you have control of the rivers and are able to move up and down them, they are a highway. They are also equally, if you lost the general shipping control of these rivers, they then become an impediment, because say a division marching or driving along here is going to do it at a certain rate. Even if you control the river, but you're not like using the barges to rapidly move up and down them, you've got to collect the barges to a location, and you're probably not going to have enough to have, say, a division with all of its supply, all of its equipment, all of its supplies for however many days of fighting, however many days of food before fighting, all of that, all just, ready to go to just like move it in one time. No, you're going to have to ferry it back and forth. So that leaves you open to, if you're doing some level of reconnaissance, flying along the Volga every day, multiple aircraft, see them concentrating barges somewhere and just attack the barges, because that's like attacking the railway system. You think, if there's nothing there at one time, it's for some operational reasons, withdrawing troops that are planning on retreating, getting ready, as I was giving the example of troops advancing across it, or just supply movement to supply units up along it or wherever. So you do air attacks on them. And now, of course, there may also be, a division, a brigade, a battalion, something sitting nearby that you would, your Stukas or whatever could spot and drop some bombs on too. So it's also, these rivers are also barriers. And so you can see, if you get Stalingrad, and it wasn't a Leningrad or a Moscow as an importance of the city itself as a city, as a population center, as a production center. It was a fairly new industrialized town. I think it was created, only of any significance. There may have been a technically a town or something there before, but I don't really think it was anything really at all until, the Stalinistic period, where, St. Petersburg and Moscow are ancient cities, and they, whether it's Russian morale, if the, because this is Stalino, I don't know if that means like Little Stalingrad, Little Stalin or something, but, or is that just out of Stalino for steel or something? Because I know there's steel production down here. Don't know. But this is Stalingrad, I do believe, is named after Stalin particularly. So there might not be like, oh my God, like if you mean Rostov has fallen, or Voronezh, I don't know, has fallen. Oh my God, we're all losing. It's all, no, these are just other cities inside the big Russia or big Soviet Union. And that's what Stalingrad was, outside of its sort of personal vanity name for both Hitler and Stalin, who wants to control the city named after them. So there is sort of that, but that to me isn't, I mean, that's more emotional for Hitler as well as Stalin for pouring in resources and fighting for it. But we can see this here. If you control this city and, Germany is able to capture some, use, other floating traffic, shall we say. There were, and still are, I believe, a fair number of small ships that are navigable, and not just like river barges. And I think there is a canal. I don't know if it was there then, but a canal now to get over to the Caspian Sea. But fairly small ships with relatively shallow drafts that, you know, sort of ply trade around here. And not all of them, you know, because it's also, they're also operating as coasters along here. They, you know, German collecting, whether it's Bulgarian, Romanian, or other captured or acquired or built vessels, you know, they're able to use this also as a supply avenue once they get a hold of it. And if you get a hold of here, railway, you know, because even just a short rail link, you've got this whole area. There's nothing over here. You know, I'm guessing, since it's on the map, this Ural River is in the Ural Mountains, I believe. And it's probably, you know, goes up to a stream or whatever here. I'm guessing this is to some degree navigable, but it goes nowhere. I mean, as in no real industrial centers, no real ability to move units along it. And I don't, you know, Alvaro and map, maybe there's a little bit more railway traffic, but it's not that much. So if you cut this area, you've now isolated all of this from proper supply, and also isolated all of this down here, which the Soviets did have my understanding is, and I could be wrong, but did have a reserve of oil outside of this region, you know, somewhere here. But it ain't going to last forever. And the U.S. can only supply so much, in that, I mean, the U.S. can pump out of the ground enough oil at this time period, to the best of my understanding, to fully supply both the Western Allies and the Comintern's oil needs. It's getting the oil, the shipping, thank you, Horn, the shipping to get it to places, and the further, the more remote places, you know, a ship that travels for 8 days, you know, 4 days each way, versus a ship traveling takes 16 days. Well, to move the same amount of supplies 16 days, you need 2 ships, you know, so the further away, the more shipping you need. Not only that, just the infrastructure, once you get it to Murmansk or Archangel, if you can somehow get it out there, you know, with the Japanese not too interfering, like if you have Soviet flagged vessels or something moving it, then you've got to rail link it all the way, you know, either from like or no, Vladivostok I was thinking, because Archangel is up here. Yes, I do sort of know the geography, but you know, either Murmansk or Archangel or like Vladivostok. That's why the Japanese, I was worrying about interfering. You've got to rail it all the way in, and you got to rail it all the way here. Now, of course, they're railing it around here, but these tracks and sort of these trains, if you will, as opposed to these trains up here already running other supplies, lend-lease, war material, whatnot going on. So you know, bottlenecks. It's creating bottlenecks. So, but if you could get all this, you sort of create, if you will, an island down here that's just sort of in needs of pacification, not and time. And yes, there is a good documentary on how the main Baku oil fields, at least if not all of like Grozny and the other ones, were all wired to explode, and maybe explode as to the point of putting underground fires. There's even one underground fire, I think, in California that's been burning for like 60 or 80 years underground. And you just go to that, where that sort of oil field is, and just see smoke coming out of the ground, out sort of in the California desert. And it's sort of, there's just enough oxygen down there, whatever there means, to keep the fires going at sort of a low level of intensity. So just burning down there. I don't know how much that would keep burning underground versus just whatever oil is gushing out to the surface, catching on fire and destroying all the infrastructure and destroying all the wells. Because I do have a bit of a family background, and yeah, you know, one, you're not going to get all of it. You can get a lot of it, a great majority of it, and when you blow them up, you actually tend to use explosives to blow out oil fires. And I don't know how much they did back in the 30s. I know, and early 40s. I know more in the 50s and 60s. But you try to have a nitroglycerin dynamite or some sort of other high explosive, and you put it out on an end of a long stick, and you're behind an armored shield, and you try to have like a fire hose pumping water onto the end of that stick where the explosives are, and you try to put the explosive, keep them cool enough and put it right out onto the fire and then detonate it. And the idea is the explosive just blows the fire away and putting it out. And Germany presumably had some of those talents and could do it, but with wrecking the oil industry down here, more so I think than the Germans realized what would have happened, just simply means you deny it to the Soviets, and yes, you can probably get a trickle back into Germany, and a trickle would be appreciated. Probably wasn't going to be quite the flood that a lot of these games have it as. And this is now, of course, the guy in charge of it may have not decided to blow the thing and switch sides. I don't know, but that was the plan at least. But denying that to the Soviets we'd have so few documents, and the Soviets, again, as we talk about, lied to themselves at all different kinds of levels. The train company, the manager in charge of the train says, we delivered 10 rail cars full of oil. There's 10 rail cars here, they're all full of oil, and now there's only 8 of them actually have oil in them. He says they are. What, are you going to deny what he's saying? Are you going to be the guy? Everybody, because no one wanted to admit to not meeting quotas, because they would be at least gulagged, if not shot. Now, gulag didn't necessarily mean forever, but, So they lied to themselves, and then they lied, sometimes knowingly, actually knowing, officially within themselves, just, send out numbers within outer whatever, but it's all based on lies, so we don't know. But I would believe that some of the major Soviet offensives would have either been dramatically limited compared to what they were, or not happen at all, just because of the lack of oil at some point. Because if you're building tanks and you don't have enough oil, enough gas, you can't drive them. I mean, yeah, you can drive the tanks, but what about the trucks that carry the fuel, the trucks that carry the ammo, the trucks that carry the supporting infantry, all of that other gasoline needed? And so, yeah, getting enough fuel to, move tanks to defend one little area that's sort of become, a static defense. I mean, the tanks are more than a static pillbox, but they are, limited to, minor operations compared to driving mass Soviet armies deeper and deeper into German-controlled territory. I really think that would have been dramatically curtailed down to smaller and fewer offensives. Just my opinion, don't have good facts on it, but just knowing the situation, that I can't imagine that not becoming a severe limiting factor. And if everything else is equal with Germany, but the Soviets could only do about half, say, I'm just throwing that number out there, and because at first they have the reserves that are outside of Baku, so they could still do that. But once you're cut off from Baku, you're going to use your reserves to try to retake Baku. But hey, if you've just blown it up, do you really need to retake it? Because you ain't going to use it either. So if the Germans can't use it, you can't use it in a timely manner. So once you blow that up, then your counteroffensives become fewer and more limited. And again, like I say, all things else being equal, because what if the Allies, double the amount of bombing of Ploetzy, or take out a few more liquefaction, coal liquefaction plants in Germany or something? Yeah, we could do things that balance it out even worse for Germany. But all things being equal, the Germans would be doing a lot better with only half the amounts of offensive power. So either fewer offensives, or the offensives they do are less able to, less strong, because they're more walking infantry. and wagons bringing, wagons and horses bringing your food and ammunition up versus trucks. Yeah, they do take Iran, but again, you have that problem. If you're down here, you're probably not taking Iran because that's not going to be the thing. And you're not going to get much fuel and supplies up this way. And it really was much more logistically easy for that fuel or the oil to go sort of into the British supply system than it would be the Soviet. So yeah, that is a critical thing. Stalingrad, the campaign is critical. Okay, yeah, this was lessons learned, and I haven't entirely forgot. That's the big mistake. The second big mistake is putting all your German units into Stalingrad and leaving mostly Romanian and Italian units holding the north and the south, and I think it was the Italians on the north and the Romanians on the south, but I could be wrong of that, flanks of it, while other German units were way down here. And as this sort of shows here, not all Romanian units are necessarily so bad. These are just been attacking, so they're a bit weaker. And the Italians here, these guys are a bit weaker here, and yeah. And so that they were easily, more easily for the Soviets to penetrate them. I think if you could have put reasonably good German infantry divisions spread out along that front at that time, and they were as standard sort of equipped and everything else, I think the Soviets would have had a much more difficult time in doing their link up. Now, forcing one or the other lines to sort of collapse to some degree and endangering the situation, yeah, they probably could have done that, but that is different than turning it into a complete pocket. So my goal here is to, now these guys again are a bit exhausted and a bit torn up, and we've over pushed, I know, but that's the point of pushing in fast and hard. And so, but is to keep some German corps intermixed along here, along with Romanian, Hungarian, and Italian, and of course we have some Yugoslav corps. So not to fully rely upon our allies. Okay, so mentioning that, we're going to come down here with you. Okay, we're gonna come, I think like that, that'll be good. Keep them from hopefully being cut off. Theoretically, that might be able to make that into there. No, I think pushing here is more important for you. Now this, yeah, this one here. Yugoslav Coastal Army, you no longer have a coast that needs to be overly defended. Okay, so like I say, we have a mix of German infantry corps. We have a few divisions. Let's move you this way just to keep you from penetrating in too deep. Well, I don't need to burn the fuel right now. I'm moving the aircraft. And we'll attack more next turn on these pockets, which will free up the German infantry divisions here as internal security and be able to push on more. Well, I know I've talked a lot. I hope it was interesting. If you find all this interesting and you haven't already, please subscribe, like the videos, comment below, and share. You don't know how important sharing is. Thanks so much. See you next time for more historical gaming.